Hi, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Tuesday Takeaways. And today we are spilling the tea because we have Shamika Dean with us, and we're going to be talking about how she completely transformed her approach to business, kind of shut down $1 million business and went and pivoted in a whole other direction and shifted identities along the way. And how she is rebuilding and growing through rest centered wealth, which is something that I think all of us here are behind. I know that I am fully behind that with the entire soft business model and everything. So I'm super, super happy to have you on today, Shamika, to talk about all of this. So, hi,
Super
welcome.
excited. I'm excited to be here. So thank you.
You're very welcome. So I would love to just kind of kick off and actually, as we talked about before we jumped on live, is like create a little contrast between what you had going on before and how you're doing things right now. And I would love for you to just give us a little bit of a summary of what your business looked like before that kind of made you burn out and decide to go in a different direction. Was it like too much content, too many team members, too many clients. What was the thing that was, as well as on the outside, as well as on the inside, right? That was creating this dissonance and misalignment that had you kind of pivot into a new direction.
I'm glad we're having this conversation because I, like so many others, thought that my burnout, which sent me to the hospital. So I had that crash and burn moment where many of us, especially if you're a high performer, high achiever, my body had to crash before I took notice, right? That not just how I was building, which is burning the midnight oil, launching every 4 to 6 weeks, having several different programs, offers, creating just constant output, constant content creation, revamping offers, all of the things, serving clients. So I too thought that was the reason I burned out. And that's where most of us think. We look at the external things, our behaviors, but the truth is the reason I burnt out is because I needed to prove that I deserved this success, right? So there was an external validation that I was seeking to validate me internally, that I needed to, work hard, right? Because, business, according to research, has literally become a status symbol, right?
Mm-hmm.
So the busier you are, if you are booked and busy, then you are here. You are a part of an elite or exclusive group of people. However, y'all can have booked and busy. I'll take rested and wealthy any day. you know?
Okay. Mm-hmm.
So, again, while I could say that it was because of the business model, there is some truth to that, but the reality is the why, and what I call the ammunition behind your
Yeah.
ambition. What is driving this behavior? Because we
Yeah.
could, create more software, we can add more software, right? We can hire more help. We can delegate. We can create boundaries. We can have a sabbatical on the calendar. None of that is going to last when your identity is rooted in how much you produce, how much you
Mm-hmm.
sacrifice, how many people applaud you, right? And the craziest thing to me, Eva, is we want people to applaud us for how much pain we inflict upon ourselves. That is the craziest thing in the world to me, you know?
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
worked so hard. So what? Right? Like
Yeah.
because what is it actually costing you to create what you're creating? And why are you rejecting a different way? Because anytime we reject ease, which ease is not the same as easy, right? Ease
Mm-hmm.
is a better way of getting the same results without all of the hardship that is attached to it. So if you are rejecting ease, that means that your hard work ethic has turned into an identity.
Yep.
And that's where I was.
Yep. That's extremely powerful. Like you said, like that ammunition, right? Or like the big domino actually that kind of led you to make the choices that you made in your business, to choose to launch every 6 to 8 weeks, right? And to choose to do things a certain way because of your need to prove something, or you just your discomfort with ease, with maybe kind of blank space and doing nothing, right? And like that's such a common thing for high achievers. That's such a big thing that I also work on with my clients who are high achievers. And there's a big difference between European culture and North American culture.
Mhm.
And as you said, like, the busyness is a status symbol, right?
Yeah.
And it's not like that globally, right? In,
Mhm,
in Europe, it's different. In
mhm,
Europe, we think, especially if you go to like Italy, France, Spain, Portugal, right? It's like, if you're working too hard, we think you're crazy. It's like, who are you working for? The man, the capitalism, the machine? Like, you have one life, go enjoy it. And so, the people who enjoy their life the most, who are having the most fun and have adventures and things like that, like, oh my God, I admire you. And the person who is working super hard and, burning the candle at both ends, we're
mhm,
like, are you crazy?
mhm,
So it's like a
mhm,
completely different thing. And I think that's a very interesting kind of contrast, right, between cultures and how we choose to then run businesses and then what we end up creating, right?
mhm,
So yeah, and it's a different kind of a nervous system, I guess, as well, right? And in
mhm,
approaching business. And yeah, I wanna hear about that part of your journey of, like, realizing where all of this is really coming from, the choices that you made and your inability to just kinda relax and allow more ease and more spaciousness, right, and more rest in your business. And most of all, like, what did it take for you to kinda decondition from that behavior and really step into that rest-centered wealth?
Well, you spoke about the culture, right? And so the culture for us, not just for me in the United States, but even the culture as a African American woman, a Black woman,
Mm. Yep.
where we are uh, symbolized for how much we can endure, right? We
Mm.
are praised for how strong we are. And the truth is, we are not strong because we wanted to be. We're strong because we had no other choice,
Yep.
you know?
Yep.
And so I come from a single parent household. My father, was addicted to drugs, so he wasn't in my life. So my mother had to work two jobs and several side hustles, to provide for her children. I'm also the oldest child. That's a whole nother conversation.
Mhm. Yes, that's a
Oldest,
big.
I'm the oldest child, the oldest daughter, and so I was thrust into responsibility a lot sooner than I should have been, right? So responsibility became my identity. Responsibility looked like how much can I handle, right?
Mhm.
Before I break
Yep,
down. That's what
yep,
responsibility looked like. And so it just continues to carry over because we think that these belief systems can be compartmentalized, but they can't. They simply just show up in the other area of your life, right? Through some kind of self sacrifice, right? And so self sacrifice in your personal life could look like saying yes to doing something for someone when you know you don't have the capacity. You need to say no.
yep,
A self sacrifice in your business will look like breaking the confines of the agreement of your contract for a client, right? Because there is just um, this identity that, well, I don't want to be the one to drop the ball, right? I don't want to appear as if I don't have what it takes to get the job done, you know? And so again, it's not compartmentalized. It just carries over into those other areas of your life. And so that is, essentially what happened to me. The social norm is hustle. In the US, the social norm is you hustle, you work hard, team no sleep, grind, no days off. How bad do you want it? That is the culture here, right?
yep,
But also with my own cultural background,
yep.
it's the idea is you are a strong woman. No, I'm choosing to be a woman of strength. And a woman of strength knows when she's reached her capacity. Okay.
Mhm,
She knows that hiring help or saying no is not weakness, it's wisdom.
mhm.
So those are some of the transitions that I had to go through. And so in my business, I had to start asking myself, what beliefs did I borrow and what were truly mine?
Yep,
So many of the beliefs that that I borrowed were not true to my core. but it was what I adopted from someone that had the level of success that I desired to have. And so when we borrow their belief systems, we borrow their behaviors.
Yeah.
Okay? So belief systems become birthing systems. And that was the journey. So I was in communities where hustle was the standard. I was in communities where I was applauded for saying, "Oh my god, I only got 3 hours of sleep last night."
Mhm.
You know, I
Yeah.
was I was applauded for saying, "I haven't had a vacation in 3 years." I was applauded for those things. And so when my body broke down, when my daughter found me on the floor, on my bedroom floor, and I had to be rushed to the hospital, not a single one of those people were the ones checking on me.
Yeah.
They weren't the ones by my bedside. They weren't the ones taking care of me to make sure I got back to health. My husband was. My children were. My granddaughters, my little glam princesses is what I call them. They were there saying, "Glammy, we love you. You okay?" Right? And so I didn't think about the business anymore, but it was that moment, that pivotal moment that I had to rethink this. Like, why did I do this to myself? Is this the only way?
Mhm.
That's the real question. Because in most cases, it's not that it is the only way. It's just simply that we haven't questioned it.
Exactly. Absolutely. 1,000 gazillion percent. And
Mhm,
that's the hardest thing I've found, along the way is truly making that identity shift
mhm,
and also that energy shift,
mhm,
something that I've also struggled myself as. I grew up with, well, first of all, went through 2 wars, by the time that I was 10, and then lost my father when I was, what was it, 11, 12.
mhm,
Brought up by, a single mom working, on her own and raising me. I'm an only child, so, like, that's kind of, easier for her.
mhm,
But, I grew up in survival mode, right?
mhm. Oh, yeah.
And, yeah, and
Mhm,
that's something that, we're very familiar with. And then that struggle and pushing and proving and like working hard, but then, you know, it's like you're trying to make something happen, but it's not happening. And it's not because of the effort, it's because
mhm,
of who you are, where you come from, right? Like I come from Serbia. And so, like, people from other countries would be like, yeah, well, I'd rather take someone who is from England than someone who's from
mhm,
Serbia and yada yada, right? And so you like there's so much of this conditioning, so many of these beliefs, so much that you really take on, right? As you just said. And it really kind of starts to seep into other things. It shifts your behavior, right?
mhm, mhm,
So that survival mode, together with the beliefs that you were brought up with, together with how you were brought up, you as the kind of parentified daughter, I
mhm.
assume, right? The first
Yeah,
child is
yeah.
that's how it goes, right?
Mhm,
And so like having that sense of responsibility and like I can't break down, I gotta hold it together for everyone, and like I gotta take everything on my shoulders and I'm responsible, and like, you get your sense of validation from that, from just like me too. Like I get the sense of validation from helping, right?
mm,
And being the helper and being there for everyone. And that's why I help people with moving from being the helper to being the activator. And
mhm,
so, one of the things I feel like the core of what we're talking about here is that shift, not just in identity, but also in energy, from this very masculine way of doing things to the
mhm,
feminine way of doing things, which encompasses a lot of stuff, right?
mhm.
From really allowing rest to really being in a healthy way, kind of self centered and not thinking about what are these guys going to think? Are they going to applaud me for resting? Or are they going to ridicule me for resting? Right. And so we're basically acting out of shame, right? Acting out of fear.
Mhm.
And then, from then on, oh, I'm sorry, I'm hearing myself double.
I can't hear
I
you
think I
though.
can, I think I can hear myself there for, okay,
Okay.
hopefully not. Um, but yeah, and then we really need to decondition from all of that and then shift into that feminine energy, right? And
Mhm,
allow that rest and allow for flow and really come back to ourselves and in that kind of healthy self-centered way, be like, do I have the capacity? to
Mhm.
help these people? Do I have the capacity to take on this very emotional conversation? Do I have the capacity for all of this? And really starting from ourselves and caring about ourselves first and foremost, so that then we can care for others, right?
Right.
And that's, again, something that we're not taught, both by society, by our brain, and everything. So I'd love to hear more from you around making those shifts. And like, I can only imagine how hard it has been, and I can imagine that it's still an unfolding journey, like it is for me, to shift out of that masculine way of being, right, into this feminine. Like, it is safe if I relax. It
Mhm.
is safe if I do less, right? If I work less, like
Mhm.
nothing's gonna fall apart. I'm not gonna make less money, right? The
Mhm.
fears are valid, right?
Right.
Logically, it makes sense. I work less, I make less.
Mhm. Mhm.
Like, but it doesn't have to be that way. And so
Yeah.
there's ways to actually create a business that thrives and grows without, more output and more energy and more effort and everything. So what does
Yeah.
that look like for you? What have you found along the way as
I
you
found
made those changes?
one of the things what you mentioned was the survival. We know how to survive. We are taught to survive, but we stay in it. It truly becomes an identity, and that's why we gravitate towards hard work, hustle, self-sacrifice, and those things because we never get out of survival. Because survival requires um a recalibration, and it requires surrender, you know? And so surrender for many looks like a risk of vulnerability, of being hurt, of losing something, missing out on something, you know? And so we don't ever get out of it. And that's the problem. We stay in that space and we're still fighting. We're still fighting, right? And I often use the analogy that if you ever see someone drowning and the lifeguard goes to save them, the first thing the lifeguard says is, "Don't fight."
Mhm,
Why? Because fighting actually makes you sink.
mhm,
It drowns you. And so many of us are in that space. We're in the water and we're fighting and we think we're getting out, but we're actually sinking. It's drowning us. Right. And so we have to be able to surrender. And what that surrender looks like is not quitting. The surrender is surrendering the need to prove that you deserve this, surrendering the idea that uh, harm is going to come to you, right? Because you stop, because you slow down. And so creating that safety is so very important, but that safety is within ourselves first. And so the reason a lot of people struggle with the safety piece is because safety requires you to slow down long enough to listen to your body, to listen to yourself. And stillness, when you're afraid of stillness, you're afraid of what it's going to reveal to you about you.
mhm,
And that's why you're in constant motion, constant, moving. And you call it discipline. You call it setting high standards, right? You call it drive. You call it all the things except for what it is, a fear of what stillness reveals, right?
mhm,
And so a part of that is learning how to slow down long enough so that you can reconnect with God first, so that you can reestablish your identity outside of what you do. And, and then being able to have those honest conversations with yourself about, again, why you're doing what you're doing. So it wasn't until and that's again why our bodies have to crash first because it's speaking to us the entire time, right? Your body is saying I'm exhausted, you're saying I'm being lazy.
mhm.
you know?
Yeah.
Your body says something feels off. You say, no, it's a fear of success. No, but when there is something, because our bodies are truly like God literally designed our bodies to speak to us what our brain will try to intellectualize. We are brilliant people. So your brain is going to try to intellectualize you out of the requirement for safety, which is slowing down, sitting still. But when you see that as a risk of losing something, you're going to get right back into action as soon as something gets uneasy or, unsettling. You're going to
Yeah.
jump back into action. And so we have to create, excuse me, again, learn how to create that safety. And so for me, that's what it looked like. I had to walk away from it. I had to walk away from the business that had made me, over $1 million. I had to walk away from that, and it was so challenging because I didn't realize until I walked away how much of my identity was attached to it.
Yeah.
That's what happened. And so I remember it so clearly the day that I had finally done the announcement to say, "Hey, I'm closing down Market Like a Mogul," which was my business. I said, "I'm closing it down, going in a new direction." And I remember feeling so much relief. I was like a weight had been lifted off my shoulders. The very next day, I felt this urge to post something to prove that I hadn't fallen off, that
Mhm.
I was still doing big things.
Okay.
And I decided in that moment, I'm done proving. I'm done proving. I don't need to post something to stay visible. I don't need to post something to prove I haven't fallen off. I'm done proving. And so it was that moment right before I had typed the post up to say, "Hey, you guys, I'm working on blah 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 blah." Blah." And right in the moment, I said,
Mm.
"No, I don't have anything else to prove.
Yeah.
I don't have anything else to prove." And I didn't post that. And I posted about proving, and the post went crazy. People were like, "Oh my god, I'm in that space," you know? But
Yeah.
yeah, it started right there.
Exactly. You're so right. And that's the thing. That's a conversation I've been having with some of the other guests. So for everyone who's listening, like this whole conversation about really sitting with yourself and how you do that,
Mhm,
right? That's
mhm.
truly it because we haven't been taught that, right?
No.
Like
Mhm,
it's fascinating how up until 6 years ago, right, we weren't really talking too much about, it wasn't mainstream to talk about mindset, success
yeah.
mindset,
Mhm.
fear of failure. It was like, okay, fear of failure. There's like everyone knew about that, but like fear of success,
Yeah,
they were
nobody was
talking
talking.
about like but I don't have that. Or crazy. I want success.
I'm doing the
So
work, right?
exactly. And so
Mhm,
like there's so much that we didn't know about. And then in the last couple of years, I think maybe 3, 4 years, we really went deeper into the conversation about the soma, the body, the nervous system,
mhm,
right? And exactly what you were talking about is like we really need to slow down. And that's the big issue, right?
mhm,
Especially with high achievers, right?
mhm,
Is that the issue is that so many are disconnected from the body, right? And from the body's intelligence and wisdom that it's trying to convey, and they're not listening, right?
mhm.
And so with that, it's like, oh, even like from the smallest things, like it's fascinating how people deny themselves of going to the toilet, right? It's
Oh,
like,
yes.
no, I need
Oh,
to finish this
I
post
need to
right
finish this.
now.
Or
Yes,
eating.
and it's or eating, right? And then you're collapsing and then you can't even
Mhm,
make your own dinner because you're like
mhm,
so exhausted, right?
mhm.
And like it's like why? And but that's it. Like that's the
They
first
don't
issue.
know
Like
their body. They don't know
exactly.
their body. Why? You don't know your body because your entire life you've been told to ignore it. You haven't been taught to honor it, to respect it, to listen to it, to sit with it, right? Your body has been seen as the enemy. Like as my kids say, it's been seen as the ops, right? Like,
Yeah. Yeah.
and so you treat it that way. So every signal it sends, you intellectualize it as something that is trying to prevent you from getting your goals, for reaching that
Exactly.
level of success. So you've had a headache for 3 days, right?
Yeah.
And you're like, I'll just push through it. Why?
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know, you're
That,
like you said, you have to go to the restroom and you're just bouncing, trying to hold it and keep yourself
yeah.
from going when you can just simply get up and go to the restroom. But we've been created not to make a move unless it causes us some kind of discomfort.
Mm,
And so that's literally what hustle culture is built upon. How much pain do I self-inflict upon myself to prove that I can do this,
mm-hmm.
right? It
Yeah.
that's the whole journey, and that's why I'm anti-hustle. I'm not anti-money. I tell people this. I'm not anti-money. I'm anti-hustle. I'm pro-rest because rest is not just about recovery. Where talking about taking mani pedis and medications and massages. Rest is your strategic advantage. Rest is a growth strategy. Rest should be the identity that you build from so that you never have to exhaust yourself to do it.
Absolutely, absolutely. And that's one of the conversations that I've had in the previous 2 lives, which was all about how pleasure is truly the driver of everything, because
Mhm.
especially for women, right? Pleasure is, a source of oxytocin, which is the
Yeah.
primary nervous system regulator. And
Mhm.
so if you can infuse your day with pleasure from morning until evening, from how you tailor your workspace, right? Like, I light a candle every day and, like, I enjoy that candle.
Mhm.
There's smells, there you go. Like, I got smells around me, I got, like, beautiful music, I got cozy pillows, like, I'm gonna
Mhm.
make everything super cozy, I'm gonna make
Create
it
the
pleasurable.
atmosphere.
Exactly, and if I feel like, okay, my creativity is not flowing, then I know how I'm gonna reconnect with that, right? And how I'm gonna go within, and how I'm gonna take a little walk if I need to, right? Like, that
Mhm.
doesn't sound productive, but actually once that's the thing, is that we need the logic, right? A lot
Mhm.
of the times, right? Because we're so disconnected from the body and the emotions and everything, we're so much in the mind. Like, let's give the mind what it wants. So
Mhm.
let me prove to you through concrete science that
Mhm.
pleasure and rest are actually going to give you more momentum. That
Mhm.
actually, when you have pleasure, when you have rest, right, when you have a regulated nervous system,
Mhm.
scientifically, a regulated nervous system is the only nervous system state in which you are truly resourceful, right?
Mhm.
All of your capabilities are online, right?
Mhm.
And you can only make good decision from a regulated nervous system, right? Because dysregulation makes you actually act or react, right, based on a fear, a shame, approving of whatever it is. And so of course you're making more misaligned, right, decisions, and you're just kind of diverting off your most aligned path,
Mhm.
right? And that's the path of ease, right? The one where you're just kind of flowing forward and everything is just happening with such ease, even though it may not be easy, right? But it feels kind of easy-ish to you. Although others could look at you and be so impressed. It's like, oh my God, you're doing so many things and you're posting so much and everything is blowing, up. And how are you doing it? And I'm like, I don't know. It's just it's nothing special
Mhm.
because it's in full, complete alignment with who I am
Right.
and my energetic capacity and my nervous system, right? And I feel like that's definitely a huge part of creating this rest centered wealth and this
Yeah.
ease and everything is really understanding what is in alignment for us on all levels, meaning energetic level, right? With our
Yeah.
energetic capacity right in the moment and every single day. We have a different battery level, right? And so I need to know how to work with that battery level every single day to make it optimum, right? Or to give myself a boost. Thus, for example, exercise or breath work that can like upregulate me and give me some more energy, right? Or if I'm feeling overwhelmed, like I need to know exactly what to do to take care of that overwhelm so it doesn't eat up the rest of my day, but actually I can move forward, right? And then on top of that, we have that kind of personality alignment with how we're doing things, right? Like
Mhm.
certain people don't like to be on video, right? But it's like the video is the thing that
That's the way it has
converts,
to be
right?
done. No. No.
Exactly. And so it's like we need that personality alignment, right? We need that talent and skill alignment, and we need that energetic alignment, and we also need emotional alignment, right?
Mhm.
And so once all of that kind of comes together, you really can move forward in your God given way forward, right? That
Mhm.
truly is kind of like that lazy river. It's like just you're kind of going with it and enjoying the ride and just having a blast
Mhm.
and everything is happening, everything is manifesting because you're finally centered on yourself and all the gifts that you've been given and how you're meant to steward them and
Mhm.
put them out in the world, right?
Yeah.
So I'd love to hear more from you around all the little alignments and
Mhm.
and creating that kind of
Mhm.
path forward.
Yeah, and you did a really good job on explaining it because alignment is not about perfect or perfection. Alignment is about congruence. The
Yeah.
the truth about who you are, what you're called to do, how God designed you, and how you do it, right? Like how you show up in your most effective and efficient way. And so I call it the divine design, right? We're not all meant to go for long, extended periods of time. Some people are. That's their divine design. But what I've recognized is most of us have we override that because we just believe that, oh, I have to do it that way because that person did it that way and they got the results that I wanted. And the reason we end up burning out is because we didn't take the time to trust ourselves and how God created us to get the results, and we try to mimic and model someone else's, right?
Mhm.
But everything is not a mindset issue. Sometimes it's simply just misalignment, right? Not wanting to run a 12-month group coaching program is not mindset, it's misalignment. Your energy is maybe better spent with one to one or a 3-month, program. That's not mindset. That is just simply misalignment. And our body will always tell us the truth, right? The body doesn't lie. So it will always speak the truth about what is going against how we're naturally designed to do and to
Mhm.
build something. But if you keep overriding it and denying the truth that's being spoken to you, that's when you end up like I was in the hospital, or you have to burn your whole business down and start all over, right?
Yeah.
And the truth is you just needed to say, "You know what? I'm feeling this way for a reason. What's the reason?" And I tell people that there's a difference between um pushing past yourself, right? And and being in alignment, you know? Because whenever something is designed to stop you, it's going to be a fear of something that you can't it's a fear, right? But when something is really misalignment, you're gonna feel it in your body. It's gonna tell you, yeah, something
If
is
you
off.
feel it.
Yeah,
If you feel it.
you're gonna feel it in your body. And so, there's a difference between pushing past your comfort zone and pulling yourself out of alignment, right?
Yep.
Pushing past your comfort zone is the truth. Because your comfort zone is going to try to keep you comfortable. It's just as simple. It's going to try to keep you
Yep.
in a place where this is something you need to do, but it's a little bit uncomfortable for you, right? But when you're pushing past yourself, when you're pulling yourself out of alignment, it is speaking. Basically, you have to lie to yourself.
Mhm.
Okay, you have to lie to yourself, right, to
Yeah.
come out of that. And so, that's how I do. I just ask the questions. I don't think we ask ourselves enough questions. I really don't. I think we just are so used to going through the motions that we don't stop to ask ourselves, why am I feeling this way? What is the truth that this is speaking to me?
Absolutely. And that's the core, right? Like, I feel like
Mhm,
that's truly the core of success. And one of the things that I work on a lot with my clients, because I naturally have that ability, right? And that kind of questioning, right? And I was always
mhm,
very connected to my body, to my nervous system. And I always prioritized, my pleasure, my comfort, right? That was like,
mhm,
I'm a little bit different in that way where I was like, I'm gonna actually create the best life for myself, the most comfortable, like,
mhm,
everything is gonna just like, I'm gonna enjoy it, I'm gonna have as much pleasure as possible. I don't care about your capitalist bullshit and the hustle and the whatever. I want the beautiful, the easy life, right?
mhm,
But there were other obstacles there in the way, right? And other kind of misalignments and pushing in misaligned directions because, hey, your mind is telling you, oh my God, this person succeeded like this. I could too. And
mhm,
like, oh, I could do this too. And like in theory, sure, I'm
mhm,
capable, I'm smart, I can do all of this, right?
mhm.
But it wasn't in alignment. And so
Right.
this is where for me, for example, like human design was that extra layer, right? On top of understanding the mindset, on top of understanding the nervous system, right?
Mhm,
Human design and astrology and all of those things, like
mhm,
whichever one you choose. But like I love human design because it also shows us our energy, not
mhm.
just our personality. And through it, I could see as well as my clients, right? Like, hey, I'm not meant to operate like this.
Right.
And that's a thing, right?
Mhm,
Because a lot of the times we assume that we can do something, that we should do something, we should be able to. If others can, we should too, right?
right.
And this is especially true for people like projectors, reflectors, manifestors who don't have a defined sacral, giving that constant life energy so that you can be working 12 hours a day on something that you're passionate about. If
Mhm,
you're not passionate about it, No.
Mhm.
But still, like, they can be passionate about something and can only pull like 4 hours out of them,
Yeah.
right? And then they feel shame for the rest, and then they're overdoing it for the
Mhm.
rest. And
Mhm.
so this is where it's so important to really understand how your energy operates and what you're meant to be doing, right? I can immediately see through someone human's design, like, you're not meant to have a podcast, a video, like, and post every day because your throat center is open and you don't have that consistent, pressure of energy to express yourself,
Mhm.
right? And so
Mhm.
you're going to be up one day and you're going to make decisions from that day when you're like, everything is cool, everything is amazing, I can do this. And then when you have to do it for days on end, weeks on end, months on end, years on end, it's just not sustainable, right? And
Mhm.
so this is where that's another beautiful layer where we get to, really de-shame, right? That's why I love human design. I really didn't understand myself so well, and I pushed myself in so many, misaligned directions.
Mhm.
And it was human design that gave me that kind of permission slip and told me, this is who you are. This is what really fits you best. And it gave me that confirmation, and it gave me that permission slip to say no to everything else. And
Mhm.
to now just go, that's then the second step, is really giving my mind that proof, right? And finding our expanders, right? People who we can look up to who are doing things the way that we want to do them, right?
Right.
I feel like people kind of reverse that, right? They find like someone who's a millionaire, like, I want to be a millionaire, right?
Mhm.
Let's say. And then they find someone who's that, and it's like, how did they do it? I'm going to do it like that.
Yeah.
No, the other way around is actually what works best. It's like, how am I supposed to operate, right? How much energy I have, how much capacity I have, what are my talents, what are my passions? And so now that I know this, who has built a business that is similar to that? Right?
Right.
Who has made millions in a similar way that I am meant to make millions? And now let me go listen to this person and work with them and like be mentored by them, right? Now this thing is that they're suggesting is actually going to work, right?
Mhm.
Versus me trying to push someone else's blueprint onto me, right? Just kind of like completely reverse.
Mhm.
So, understanding yourself and giving yourself that permission is key. And then giving yourself that proof, I find, has been crucial for all of us who are like really stuck in the mind. It's like, I need proof that rest is going to be productive. What do you
Yes.
mean rest is productive? Like, it
It
feels
seems
like you're just giving me a little tagline, right? But I
Mhm.
needed to actually see the concrete science that resting actually gives me more energy. It gives me more creativity. It helps me make better decisions. And I'm like, oh, okay, so I'm gonna keep choosing this every single time,
Mhm.
right?
Mhm.
Because now I know the proof is behind it. I'm not just listening to some Eva, right, or some Shamika over there, and maybe it's just their point of view,
Yeah.
right? And maybe it was like it just worked for them, but it's not gonna work for me. Like, no, this is concrete science, right? And
Yeah.
so now, like, we get to can relax, right, and get to embody this different way of being. But the process of deconditioning is really, really tough. And it's a long journey, to be honest. It's because it's like so deeply ingrained on so many levels.
Mhm.
Right. And you find yourself as you did, right, with that first post. It's like you're like, no, I'm doing
Yeah,
things a
I'm not
different way. And then the first post is like, hey guys, I'm still here. I'm gonna,
Mhm.
do it. And then you caught yourself. And that's the
Mhm.
thing. Like that's always I feel like the thing, like catching yourself going in that old way, right? And
Mhm.
then slowly that the time between you thinking of doing it the old way and catching yourself starts to shorten, right? And
Mhm.
so first you're like, I'm gonna then you write the whole post, right?
Mhm.
But then you realize, oh my God, no, I'm not gonna post this. But then after like 3 months of doing this, you're like, you don't even think about posting the post. Now
No.
you're there, right? You're immediately catching yourself. Like as
Mhm.
soon as you had the idea, you're like, no, that idea is
Mhm.
misaligned, right? And so
Mhm.
you kind of collapse that and then you start to really with that shift into this whole other way of being. So
Mhm.
it's like, as you said, like asking ourselves the right questions, catching ourselves in the moment, and learning to trust our body. But that truly is the really big piece and really big work because it does definitely require a lot of somatic work, somatic experiencing to reconnect with the body, to trust it, to like listen to your intuition. How do you even hear your intuition? What is your intuition? It's so subtle, the signs that your body is sending for so many things that it becomes a tricky little thing, right?
Mhm.
And tricky thing to untangle. but quite a journey and quite an interesting journey as well.
Yeah. Mhm.
So
Yeah.
um, I,
It's definitely.
I would love to hear from you more around, the shifts that you have now made in your business and what does your business look like right now in contrast to your previous one? Like, how does risk centered wealth manifest itself in, you know, the business model that you chose, right? How you're taking action in your business, what you're allowing yourself, what you kind of stepped away from and gave yourself permission not to do, right?
Yeah, so, you mentioned, how you have to I'm just gonna say interrupt. You have to be able to interrupt the pattern, which is what I started doing. Interrupt it, looking at the behaviors that got me here in the first place. Because when you have burned out and you start to rebuild, you start looking at the way that you were building first, right? So you look at the business model, you look at the offer structure, you look at the clients that you were, working with. So you start looking at those things. You start looking at your messaging. Um, and so you have to interrupt and start asking the real questions, does this business model really align with how I build the without burning out? That's number one. Is this message that I'm putting out, is it true to me? Are the people that I've been working with, are they really who I'm called and designed to help? You know, so it like starting to interrupt that, looking at those daily habits, that you are implementing and sitting with the truth of that. Is this really how I desire, to build? Right. Um, so what's drastically different? I don't know if it's drastically different because my core message has always been the same. And it is about creating the type of success that doesn't cost you yourself, your seed, which is if you have little children, your spouse, if you're married, and your sanity, like in the process. So that has always been my core message and core conviction, which means that I understand that to do this, it starts with the person building the business and not the business itself, right? So that identity work. So instead of me leading with the more tactical things that I thought I had to make money, which was leading with a money centric message, I started getting to the truth of what I really truly wanted to do. And I've always been in the business of transformation, right? I've always been there. That is my core, that is my passion, my heart. And so I started leading with the transformation that I know I wanted to provide for my clients. The other thing was I stopped lying to myself and calling things a mindset issue when they were just misalignment. I do not like 12-month programs and I'm not going to go back to it. That's not what I enjoy doing, you know? I have the type of I tell people I'm anointed for acceleration. So I don't need 12 months to help you get results. I just don't. Give me 3 months. Actually, give me 15 minutes and I'll change your life. But 3 months, we can go and do a little bit deeper work. Okay. But so three months, with the option, like to renew if I feel like there's additional work that we need to do. Cause I'm not here to enable you, right? That's not my goal. I'm here to empower you to do what you need to do. And so I stopped lying to myself and calling it a mindset issue about not wanting to do 12-month programs. I started paying attention to when my energy level starts to die down, you know? So that comes back to reconnecting with my body. I don't do that. I also know that there were other tools that I could provide people with that they didn't need me to hold their hand for 12 months or 3 years. Now, I have some clients, I absolutely love them and they keep coming. They're like, "You're not getting rid of me. I don't care. I know the more you evolve, I'm gonna evolve," right? So I have those types of clients as well. But once I was able to really get to the truth of how I wanted to build and how I was able to show up as my best without depleting myself in the process, but still giving my clients the best, then I started to structure my business model around that. I'm also very experiential. I tell people all the time, I am experience. When you come into my space, there's an experience that's going to happen. It's going to transform your life. And so because experiential, events were a huge thing for me. I love to get a woman in the room, and when I tell you there's gonna be some tears shed, but there's gonna be a whole lot of transformation happening in that space, right? And I love to create a safe space for the high performer to let them know that they are seen, safe, and supported. That is my passion. I know what it is to lead from the front and nobody sees you bleeding. I know what it is to keep going and going and everybody's pulling from you, but nobody's pouring into you. Let me be that for you. Right. So my events allow me to do that. Um, and with the practices, because here's the thing, when your practice works, someone should be able to replicate it without you being in the room. Right. And so have now I have practices that they can take with them, right? Coupled with the work and the framework that they've learned from me and things like that. And it all works, and I'm not having to work all the time, like, I literally created it in a way where I love it. I wake up now excited about the work that I do. Like, I'm not dreading getting on a session with a client. I'm not dreading or contemplating, "Oh my god, what type of content do I need to put out? Oh my god, is this good enough?" And I no longer have this urge to prove anything to you. I literally like, I'm not proving nothing. If you think I use AI, good. If you you whatever it is you think, good. I had a whole video that went viral. It's got probably like 12 million views from people using my sound. And it was just like I got to the point of okay, like if you don't like me, okay. If you think I'm doing it wrong, okay. If you believe 5 plus 7 is 2, okay, like, that's where I am, right? And so I'm not in a space of proving, and when a woman or a man, when you no longer have the need to prove, there is ease that happens. Things flow from you without force, right? You don't you still do the work to regulate when those moments happen, but you're able to get out of that space so much faster because you know that I'm not creating this content because I want to be liked. I'm not creating this offer because oh my God, I'm desperate. I don't create from that space. When you are a person that no longer needs to prove, you move at a pace of peace,
Yeah.
you know? And I have
Okay.
people that say this to me now. They're like, "You sound like rest. You sound like peace." Because I have truly embraced it. I've embraced ease. I embody rest, right? This is my identity. So I'm not having to force, anything to happen. Just like when we got on this session, we didn't have to go through a whole script or, plan. We just got on here and we began to flow. Why? Because we're in alignment with our beliefs.
Yeah.
Right. And so my business model now truly represents I don't build for rest, I build from rest because rest is my identity.
Mm,
And that identity is that I'm solid within, right? But
mhm,
secure within myself, right? I have
mhm.
surrendered the journey, the time frame, and all of that stuff to God. I'm gonna do what God gives me to do. The rest is on him, right? Like that's how
Mhm.
I live my life. So I'm not in this space of urgency, like I gotta get there. I'm not constantly moving the goalposts. The goals come as they come. I'm not constantly moving them. They happen as an extension, right, of who I know I am. And so that's the difference. And then I created the physical products, right? So these and my room sprays they all represent the work that I do because every one of my physical products is aligned for nervous system regulation. So now you don't need me in your ear. You know, when I like this, it's going to evoke the right senses, right? I have a framework for you to follow to go when you light your candle, the whole nine. You don't need me to hold your hand,
Yeah.
you know? So that's where I am. So you can see how excited I got.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's the whole point, right? That's the whole point. Like that's what we didn't maybe understand. Like I know for myself personally, it's like I was pushing in misaligned directions and the pushing was there, right?
Mhm,
But as soon as I went in a direction that really felt aligned, that I really felt excited about,
mhm.
I was doing just as much work, same exact work,
Not
same exact
tired.
task, every but I'm like, "Ooh, I'm excited to do this. I'm
Mhm,
excited to
mhm.
post this. I'm excited to share about this." Whatever it is, it's just coming out of you because especially for me, like I'm an emotional manifesting generator, right? I have an emotional authority. So the emotional center is a motor center. So if my emotions are behind it, I have the motor, right? I have the energy to go towards that thing, right? And it's just pulling me, right?
Mhm,
But the other thing that you said, which I feel like is actually the most crucial thing out of all of this, is really coming back into our personal power,
mhm,
right? And that sense of security within yourself. And it was fascinating. In my life, it is. my romantic relationships that have actually changed my business the
Mhm.
most. And it was me realizing that I have anxious attachment,
Mm.
right? And being pushed onto a journey of healing that and stepping into secure attachment that
Mhm.
actually helped me step into that secure attachment with my business, with my audience, with my
Mhm.
clients, with money, right?
Mhm.
And actually step into that security and that basically personal power and acting from that place. Like there's nothing outside of me that needs to give me validation, right?
Nah.
Nothing that I need to prove, right? Can I look in the mirror and realize I'm a badass, like I am amazing at what I do, and can I now go and express that
Mhm.
shame free, right? And now there's like that removal of shame that needs to happen so that I can go and have the audacity to post a post or an email or whatever and say, I am the one to hire if you're looking for this.
Mhm.
I'm the best choice that you can make, right?
Right.
And especially as women, we don't have the audacity to say those things, right? Because, we tone things down, right? We're not seeing that.
Try to
We're
be
not
more palatable.
anchored in. Yeah, we're not anchored into our personal power, right?
Mhm.
And then the other thing that you also love speaking of is God and that
Oh, yeah.
connection to God, right?
Mhm.
And so, I mean, it's a whole spectrum of understanding and a relationship with God that we each have, right?
Mhm.
And in my personal journey and experience, I love to think about it as like God is everything, right? Everything that is around us that we are is made out of God, out of this one creative energy, right?
Mhm.
So this hand of mine is God. It may not have the consciousness of it, but it is made of that same energy. So God is running through me. And in some way, I'm a part, I'm a fractal of God. And
Mhm.
as such, I hold a piece of that creative power and I create my reality. So with who I am, my identity, my self-concept, my personal power and all of it, right?
Mhm.
I can reconnect with my true God self, right? And realize that I am a fractal of the creator and I'm a creator of my reality. And through that and that personal power, I can manifest what I desire to manifest in my life, right? And
Yes.
so, and also let like just like in human design, we have that kind of passenger consciousness
Mhm.
kind of thing, right? It's like you're not the driver, you're not making things happen.
Right.
You're kind of like a passenger, right? Like just enjoy being a passenger princess, right? Do what
Mhm.
you want to do what you're told to do, right? What you're passionate about doing and let, surrender the rest, right?
Mhm.
And so that's the same thing that I feel like here is like really anchoring into our personal power, anchoring into the God given gifts that we have, honoring that,
Mhm.
right? Honoring the impulses inside of our body, sending us those signals and intelligence and wisdom, right? And also having that space to not scroll, not consume, and just actually connect with the intelligence that is coming through us and then letting it be expressed
Right.
through us, right? Those ideas and passions that we have and whatever, right? They
Mhm.
want to come through us and we need to learn how to allow them to come out and how to not force them and push them but
Yeah.
just go step by step and in that kind of a way surrender and not plan out and overthink, right? And that's another piece of the dysregulated nervous system. It's
Yeah.
all that overthinking, right? That is caused by the dysregulation, right? But when you're at peace inside and regulated inside of your nervous system, you have that calm, you have
Mhm.
that like centeredness and that neutrality of emotions that enables you to actually just, hey, I'm just going to do this today because it feels good. And maybe tomorrow I'm not going to be as inspired to do this, but maybe after 3 days I'll get back to that inspiration, right?
Yeah.
And also, as you said, finally, it's like having those tools in your back pocket. I
Yeah.
feel like that's the most important thing, really, is like creating this set of tools that you know that you can rely on. I know that I can rely on breath work for everything from trauma release to releasing the triggers, right? And not having an emotional reaction to actually upregulating my energy when I'm feeling tired or down regulating when I'm feeling overwhelmed or anxious or whatever. Like I know that I can use that. Same goes with like EFT tapping, for example, and somatic visualization and other tools that I love to use. And I know that I feel so safe and secure
Mhm.
knowing that I have them in my back pocket and knowing that I can tackle anything that life throws at me, right? from the hardest thing that used to derail me completely, right? To the smallest things like, oh, I'm tired today, right? So
Mhm,
everything has its own like little practice that we can use, right?
mhm.
And to propel ourselves forward, right?
Yeah.
Just like you, just like you talk about, right? Having those tools, having those little things,
Mhm. Absolutely. But,
which is
I
great.
was thinking about you brought it up again, and it just made me think about the make it happen mentality. Anytime you have to make it happen, there's an underlying belief that you don't believe it will.
Mm,
Yeah. Because you're trying to force something. When you
mhm,
truly believe something, there is no force. There's no force,
yeah,
you know? And so that's why I always challenge people when they say, well, I'll figure it out. I'll make it. I'm going to make it happen. Why? If you believe it, why do you have to make it happen? If you truly
mm,
believe it,
mm,
you don't, right?
mm,
But we don't think about those things because they look like ambition. They look like, passion and drive and all of that,
mm,
right? And the other thing that you mentioned was about how, I'm sorry, my computer's trying to saying I got too much stuff open. Sorry. But, even with just being the passenger, you know, I was actually reading Psalms 1 last night about how God creates an irrigation channel, which means that you are always, and even it even says that you always prosper, like in every season. Your leaf does not wither. Then there's an irrigation channel, like constant provision, always there for you. You just need to be in the right place and trusting the right source. Like it's just that simple, you know?
mm.
And so I was reading
It's
that
hard
and
to
I,
believe.
yeah,
It's hard to believe though that
it's
sorry to
hard to
interrupt you,
believe.
but like I know
It's
that
hard to
this
believe.
comes.
But when you
Yeah.
don't have the right identity and you don't see, and this is why when I walk my clients through, I'm like, what is your image of God? How do you see God? Because depending on how you see God is going to determine how you show up. Whether you show up trying to force the results, or you show up and literally just align yourself to take the aligned action to get the results. Because there's a difference between aggressive action and aligned action.
Mhm.
Okay. Aggressive is
Exactly.
like, I'm forced, I gotta do it, I gotta work hard at a grind. Aligned action is, okay, God, what do I need to do today? And sometimes that means you might need to take a nap. You might need to lay down and rest.
Exactly.
you know,
Exactly. That's
but it comes back, for me, it comes back to those things. And the more I'm grounded in my faith, the more I'm grounded in my identity, the more I'm grounded in that, the less I feel the need to have to force anything to happen, you
yeah.
know? Yeah, I do not. One of my quotes is alignment activates acceleration. You want to grow fast, the faster you want to grow, get more aligned.
Exactly. And that alignment is like we said in the very beginning, is like on multiple levels,
Yeah,
right?
it's
And
multiple levels. Yeah.
and one of those levels right now is that alignment with the truth that believe in God or not, but like
Mhm.
things, there's abundance everywhere, right? Like our reticular activating system is just focused on lack, right? And so
Yeah.
there's a misalignment, right? Like we need to align with abundance and see abundance everywhere. Dysregulated nervous system cannot see abundance
No,
everywhere. It only sees threats, right?
survival and stress.
So
Yeah.
exactly. And
Mhm.
so that's also another piece to really creating that aligned flow forward,
Mhm.
right? Because you know, we need to actually act in alignment. We need to make the right choices, right? And it just requires, working on all levels, right?
Yeah,
And
it's
understanding the
mind, body,
nuances.
spirit. It's mind, body,
Mm,
spirit, right? And so even with rest requires regulation. Regulation requires safety. Most of us try to go straight into regulation to create safety, but we haven't even learned what rest really is or how to, truly rest. And it is mind, body, and spirit, right? It's the beliefs, it is the safety in your body, right? And it is spirit, like your connection with God, like that knowing that source that there's like no end to it, and that's what if you read Psalms 1, for those of you who do, if you read it, it literally talks about a continual supply. Like
mm,
there's no lack. There's
Yeah.
no end,
Yeah.
you
But
know?
we see lack, right? And that's the
Mhm,
thing, right? There is no lack, and that's the thing. It's like we're so oblivious to
mhm.
certain things, right? When you are operating from that survival, from that dysregulation, you literally cannot see the abundance that's
No.
everywhere, right? Because as soon as you start to regulate, right? As soon as I started doing that and regulating my system, it's like I went from looking at the world like this to like opening up and wow, like this
Mhm,
issue that I have, it's like or whatever this lack that I'm perceiving, it's not actually real because I have these people that can help me and these resources that I have and
mhm.
all of this stuff. And it's like, whoa, I can finally see it
But
now. Right?
think about survival, right?
Mm,
Survival only allows you to see what's in front of you.
exactly. The immediate
It sup
threat. And
it
it's like, yeah,
suppresses everything. Yeah, it only allows you to see what's right in front of you, and that's why it's so limiting.
exactly. Exactly. And that's why it's so crucial to work on that and then, to do that deconditioning out of that like hustle
Mhm,
energy and everything. And there's just really pay attention to our body, work with our body in alignment with it, in cooperation with it, right?
yeah,
So that we
absolutely.
can truly move forward in that flow
Yeah.
and surrender and everything and create some rest centered wealth, right?
Yes, yes, yeah.
Yeah.
Breast center wealth is not laziness. It's not a lack of
Right.
action. It's not a lack of effort. It is the lack of have to force or to prove that you deserve anything through aggressive, you know, steps and actions. That's really what it's all about. It's knowing that what is meant for you, it's already there, right? You don't have to make anything happen. You are literally just waking up, doing what you know you need to do, and you have a clear definition of what is enough. That was another thing that I wanted to talk about is enough. We haven't defined it. We haven't defined it. What is enough? And enough for me and enough for
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
look completely different. They look
Yeah.
completely different. What is enough? Like I want to leave, if I can leave you with that, think through that. What is enough for you? Because if you can't define it, you're going to keep moving the goalpost and burnout is going to be your best friend.
Mhm. Exactly. Absolutely. Amen. Amen. That's the final thing that I want to leave everyone with is really like that. Not just defining what's enough, but like defining the lifestyle that you want and
Mhm,
not making it the goal, but making it your reality. Like
mhm,
I want to have that kind of a location freedom, right? Like I want to have that chill. And I want to enjoy every day. I want to wake up with a smile, right? It's like start from
mhm,
those things, right? Maybe you don't have the location freedom right now, but like how can you embody the most of the lifestyle that you want, right? And the
mhm,
feelings that you want to feel. And if you feel those feelings on the journey, you're gonna basically be there before you arrive there, so to say,
mhm.
right? And so, yeah, understand what is that lifestyle. Understand what is enough for you,
Yeah.
and yeah, set those goalposts so that you know when you hit them instead of like hitting it and then okay, what's next? More, give me more, right? And
Mhm.
then just overworking, overdoing, and all of that.
Yeah.
Thank you, Shamika, for being with us here. Let us
Mhm.
know how people can work with you, where they can find you. Do you have any freebies for them or anything that you want to share with them? Yeah.
Yes, definitely. I'm right here on Substack. This is my new home. I kind of divorced all of other platforms to be here to build scratch. I walked away from 130,000 subscribers to followers, sorry, across social media to rebuild at a place where it aligned with rest centered wealth, how I want to build, things that work for me. So I'm not always working for them. Community connections, very important to me, which is why I decided to start here. And so definitely subscribe, if you feel called to subscribe to Rest in the Wealth Community. I have some freebies on my page, on my site. I have free trainings there that you can get access to. I also have a rested wealth archetype
Mhm.
assessment, which shows you how you actually should be building, right, in a way that does not burn you out.
Mhm.
That assessment is free. You can take that assessment, and it'll give you your rested revenue roadmap. You know, right after that. Also, I'm getting ready to host my retreat. The rest is the new revenue retreat in October. Super excited about
Okay.
that.
Where
Yes,
is that happening? Do
it's
you know
gonna
the
be
location?
yeah, it's gonna be in Nashville, Tennessee. October 23rd through 25th, and the wait list for that is open as well. I have to send you the link for it. But yeah, so I'm excited. I'm excited about what, I'm building here and the lives that have been transformed through it. So
Mhm.
come on over to Rest Centered Well.
Beautiful. Beautiful. Guys, I'm assuming if you're watching this on the replay, go down into the blog and you're going to find all of the links to Shamika's Substack and her offerings and everything. So go and enjoy that. And once again, Shamika, thank you so much for being a guest, sharing your insights, your wisdom with us and everything. Thank you, everyone here who's been a guest. So Leon, I'm hearing you. I see all of your
Thank
comments.
you.
We couldn't just interrupt, but like, thank you so much for all of the love and everything. Come on, we'll see you next week. Thank you. Bye.